You're listening to the N.W.A, the Nubian Wrestling Advocates.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Yo, it's Righteous Reg. It's a case for the safe, keep a space for the Nubians. Unfiltered, off-kilter, the professor, the godfather. Post-wrestling, the N.W.A, not keep guessing, The views and expressions, you know the rest, it's pod excellence, get the message. Advocates for Nubian wrestling, you're listening to the best again. Black wrestling in the ring, we invested in. Nubian kings and queens, we invested in. It's for the culture and we reppin' it. It's for the culture and we reppin' it.
And welcome to the N.W.A. Podcast, the Nubian Wrestling Advocates, the show all about getting color in the professional wrestling business. What's going on, everybody? We are back for the month of July with our first live show. Got so much to talk about. Y'all already know what it is. Y'all already know how we do. But before we get into the topic of the day, the topic of the weekend, perhaps the topic of the year, let's get into who we are. I am, of course, the Godfather, Nate Milton, and I am joined by my partners in crime. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me introduce the angry intellectual himself, the man that can make sense of nonsense. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him. You love him. Moderna Chris, a.k.a. the Professor Chris Ely. Can we rock? What's up, Doc?
What is up? So I used to host a Saturday night show when I was going to USC, and I'd open the show saying, welcome Trojans. It's Saturday night and you're listening to me, so that means you're not getting laid also. Welcome to the debut live show that we got, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm watching Roosh on TV right now, posing. So I'm excited. Yeah.
I mean, first of all, Chris, you don't know these people. You don't know these postmarks.
I know, right?
You don't know the people watching on YouTube. They can multitask. I know Steve Willie is out there in the Chicagoland area watching. You don't know about these people's lives. Let's not make assumptions, my brother.
Well, that's probably why we got canceled too. So
let me introduce one of the hardest working men in this space. Y'all have seen this brother. He's been putting in work all week, especially the last 24 hours on the Post Wrestling site. He is also the host of his very own YouTube channel. But most importantly, Chris, he's our nephew. He is the youngest in charge. Y'all give it up on camera for this man, Andrew Thompson. What's good, nephew?
My guys, man, Nate, Chris, Brandon, Thurston. It's great to be here with y'all, man. It's always a pleasure to be back on the NWA pod. Love talking to y'all, man, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Yes, this is going to be a very, very interesting conversation, and we couldn't do this conversation alone. I mean, we could, but we wanted to take it up to that next level. And so we called a man who can get into the numbers, a man who can get the story behind the story, a man who is not only a friend of the program, not only a colleague here at Post Wrestling, but he's our brother. Y'all give it up. From WrestleNomics, Brandon Thurston. Brandon, what's good, my man? Welcome back.
It's great to be here with you guys, Nate, Chris, Andrew. I feel like those were like in-ring introductions, each one of us from each corner. So I'm honored to be here for the second time to be joining you guys on the NWA podcast.
Yes, and we are glad that you took some time out with us tonight. We're also glad that for the folks watching us live, again, this is our first live show. So shout out to everybody checking us out live on the Pro Wrestling YouTube channel. We're going to try to get to as many comments as we can tonight because we know y'all have a lot of thoughts about these stories that we're going to talk about. But if you want to make sure that your voice is heard, if you want to leave no doubt that your voice is heard, there is one way, Chris, for them to do that, and that is to smash that super chat button, because when you hit that button, Andrew Thompson, it shows what you want to talk about. It shows your thoughts, your desires, your opinions, and we can address that. So appreciate everybody watching. If you definitely want to get your comments on the show, though, hit that super chat button, and we will definitely look out for you. But I feel like everybody knows why we're here, so let's just get into it. So 24 hours ago, and I'm gonna toss it over to Andrew because he is our resident newsman here in a second, but just to kind of set the scene for everybody, a momentous story happened in the world of professional wrestling, and a lot of people are feeling a lot of different ways about it. Of course, Andrew, we are talking about the removal of Max Dupree from Maximum Male Models. I don't know how we gonna move forward as a society without that brother Max Dupree. Now, all jokes aside, we of course are talking about. Y'all know I got jokes. We of course are talking about the resignation, the abrupt resignation of WWE CEO and Chairman Vince McMahon. So, Andrew, we know you've been covering this story all weekend. You thought you was gonna have an easy day on Friday, and then this news dropped. So, kind of catch everybody up to speed on what went down yesterday, brother.
Yeah, man. So, like, for real, Nate, in all honesty, man, I feel like everybody at this point kind of knows what's going on. But like, just to refresher my day yesterday, I was covering the news earlier that day. I thought I was going to wrap up this wonderful week at Post Wrestling. Right now, I've been doing while John been on vacation. And like right around the time where I was getting ready to write the news update, I checked Twitter and I see Vince McMahon has retiring from his role as CEO and chairman of WWE, and Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan have been appointed as co-CEOs, and I think it's a lot of different things that we'll talk about, like all within that, and I think it's great that we have Brandon here as well to sort of break down sort of the business side as well, and we can add on to that as well. But yeah, essentially that's probably the biggest story that we probably gonna see. You could probably say arguably this year, but anything can happen, by then. But I think by far, like as far as this year goes, this is probably the biggest news story in terms of pro wrestling related things.
Absolutely, and I think where I guess I kind of want to start tonight is kind of where everybody was at yesterday. Before we go forward, let's take a quick look backwards. And Brandon, you're our guest, brother. So when the news broke, when Vince hit that tweet, and you know what I'm saying, Vince hit send on that tweet, and he said, he's retiring at the age of 77, then now forever. You got to throw them plugs in on the way out, Brandon. What was your immediate reaction to the news that Vince McMahon was stepping down?
Well, I was in my office. I was listening to podcasts, and it was sort of like relaxing for, I don't know, a good 15 minutes or so. And I hadn't been looking at my phone. And I, sort of leaned forward and looked at my phone, and I have like 4 texts from people who don't text me regularly and stuff. And somebody texted me, just in all caps, Vince. So I said, oh no. And I should figure, we were talking about how this was a busy day for Andrew on Friday. I think we're going to have a lot of busy Fridays, and we have had a lot of busy Fridays so far. But yeah, I looked to my email, and there it was, the press release that Vince McMahon has retired, which I think is an interesting choice of words that we might talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we go get into that here in a little bit, Brandon. Chris, what about you? I know on the West Coast it was probably midday when the story broke. So how did you react and respond to the news about Vince McMahon stepping down?
Well, I was in one of our group chats, and then Marcus Vanderberg from Yahoo Sports, who's in the group chat with us, sent the message that Vince McMahon had retired. And then shortly after, 10 minutes later, I got a lot of my my media friends who asked me what was going on. because usually my black media friends they defer to me when it comes to wrestling stuff, and I was trying to gather as much information as I could. I had already wrote um, an article for Thurston. This month helped me turn this one big ass article I wrote on WWE culture into 2 articles. So I was just like, oh, August, this is just going to be ready to go to print, ready to go to publish or whatever. And then now, at first, I thought it was going to be more of a daunting task to rework this article, but now it looks like something that's doable. Just adding a few updates to it. But man, this is just, it's we talked about this last month. Rich fans said this would happen. I agreed with them, but it's still surprising when it happens. It's like when you expect things to happen, but then it actually does happen. It's funny. And then I still don't understand the nuances of what's going on. People are asking me, is Vince McMahon going to be held accountable? And I don't know what their definition of accountability is, because it's a relative term in this instance. So it's just fun to kind of dissect this stuff as Roosh lays on the outside mat.
Chris providing us with the live ROH Death Before Dishonor coverage, man.
Chris, the only man in the industry that can simultaneously break down this Vince story and also give you that play-by-play. Salute to that man, Chris Ely. For me, guys, it happened when I was at work. So I'm at work, and most of the time during the day, Brandon, I'll get like anywhere from 5 to 10 texts. That's kind of about a normal day. Or I'll get maybe 7 Twitter notifications during my day. That's a normal day. And I was having a normal day, out here on these streets, making sure everybody is good in the automotive world, slanging these tires. But then all of a sudden, I want to say about 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, my phone just started going crazy. And like you said, we're getting Marcus. And again, point of clarification, Marcus was at Yahoo. Now he's at ESPN.
Oh yeah,
I know I'll never hear the end of that.
And he'll give me the business when I see him next time.
Yes,
too, so.
Yes, Marcus will actually see you in these LA streets, Chris.
ESPN.
Yes, Marcus now at ESPN. So Marcus said something in the group chat, and then all of a sudden, everybody is talking about this. And I think my immediate reaction was a mixture of surprise, because I'm not shocked, because we did talk about this being a possible outcome a month ago, but it is a surprise, right? Because we all know historically how stubborn this dude can be. And so I was like, okay. And then I think Kate said something similar last night on Rewind to SmackDown. My next thought was, they must have something on this man for him to just moonwalk out the back door like that. And then, just kind of listening to people like Brandon had a great Spaces last night, kind of talking about this and breaking this down. And I've seen other people's commentary over the past 24 hours trying to get a handle on this. And so I guess we can go there next, Brandon. So Vince sends out the tweet. We also get the reports of, the message to the locker room talent. And then, kind of the moving chairs from a business standpoint. Out of all of these things, Triple H returning, Stephanie's elevation, Nick Khan always in the mix. What has been the 1 or 2 things that kind of stand out to you or make you raise an eyebrow the most in all of this?
Well, the headline of the press release and the headline that you see throughout media, I think wrestling media, mainstream media reporting on this story, is that Vince McMahon has retired. And that's what I titled, the Twitter Spaces that you're mentioning. That's what I titled the live stream that we did with Jesse Collins last night. And it kind of hit me. I haven't slept very much in the last 24 hours or so. But it kind of hit me at like 2 a.m. last night that we all just kind of swallowed that word, retire, which, in all honesty, I believe this man had no intention of ever retiring. I am of the belief that he was going to stop working for WWE the day that he was no longer able to, his health no longer allowed him to. And I'm sure this was something that thought was put into from W Media Relations in terms of, well, because when I was talking about this since June 15th, since the story came out, well, is he going to have to resign? I can't imagine him resigning. You know, what would it take to convince him to resign? And retirement sounds like a much more innocent word. It sounds less disgraceful. And it works because of his age, right? People who are 76 or 77, they retire. They are retired. It makes it sound more voluntary and more innocent. But in all actuality, this man resigned. He had no intention of retiring, in my view. But that's one thing that stood out to me.
And what about you, Chris? Like when you know, I know you had an opportunity to participate in the spaces with Brandon last night. So kind of a day removed from this, and maybe a day removed from some of that initial kind of like, oh wow, this is actually happening. What are your major thoughts about it now? What are kind of some of the big takeaways 24 hours later, man?
Well, it's just one of those things where in corporate America, I know Vince McMahon has created this aura of invincibility around him, no pun intended. But what I've seen with CEOs throughout the years when they get caught in these grab ass scenarios, you always have to step down because it just is what it is. Because corporate America doesn't work this in a similar fashion as politics. They're not the exact same thing, you know. So I think Vince McMahon did the most honorable thing that a dishonorable man can do in this situation. Because I mean, you could go crawling in, but like the same thing happened with John Schnatter from Papa John's when the N-word stuff happened with him. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, you can. If nobody wants you there, then you're not doing yourself any favors. You know what I'm saying? If it's looking bad with investors and stuff like that, I just think this is
right.
The natural progression of things.
So hold on, Andrew, because I want to follow the breadcrumbs Chris just laid out though. So if we're gonna make this analogous to your boy Papa John, what you saying, Chris, even though you're not really saying it, Shaquille O'Neal, new CEO, WWE.
Well, that'll be something, right?
Go ahead, nephew. I was just gonna follow up with Chris saying, like, coming out of this Vince stuff, it seemed like it's so many questions like that probably are going to be answered over the next 4 to 5 weeks or months or whatever it is. Like, what happens to Kevin Dunn? Like, right. Essentially, John, I think it's like clear that John Laurinaitis is out because I mean Triple H is resuming his role as the EVP of Talent Relations, so I'm assuming that's that's a done deal. But like, is WWE's board going to continue investigating Vince? Like, what's the whole like creative situation looking like going forward? Like, I feel like it's so many questions, and I feel like it's going to be a very like interesting story to like continue to look at. But this is like piggybacking off what Chris said about Vince bowing out. I do, and what Brandon added as well in terms of like using that word retirement. Like, now that it's sort of like formatted that way, like, it kind of makes you think about it. Like, the retirement, it really isn't the word. It's more so it is. Just following up on what Brandon said, I think it was just a nicer way to put that he had to step away in this case.
And to me, Andrew, this has always been like we talked about last month. If there was going to be anything that was going to be able to move Vince out of the paint, it was probably going to revolve around the money, right?
Yeah.
Because this dude is so entrenched in this company, so entrenched in this culture that it would have to be something that would mess with the money to get him out of the paint. And so, Brandon, let me turn that to you, because obviously this is something that you follow in terms of the financials and the goings on in the boardroom. How much of that plays into this quote unquote retirement of Vince McMahon? Because I think it's probably the most important thing that would lead him to this decision.
I would think that WWE's ability to negotiate a great TV deal for Raw and SmackDown, which is coming up next year. It's probably going to be next year when a new deal is struck for Raw and SmackDown. I believe they're going to get an increase, or at least before this, I believe they were going to get a 1.5x increase. I've been arguing and had argued last week that I think they're going to have a challenge getting a 1.5x increase with Vince McMahon still as their CEO or whatever status he's in, just the head of creative. I would imagine that they had some kickback from business partners, maybe from their media partners, NBC Universal and Fox, from this. To the contrary to that, though, I did ask one person who's a media consultant earlier today if they thought that was happening, that maybe, excuse me, that maybe Fox and NBC Universal were expressing concern about this, or maybe they would have fewer bidders for Raw and SmackDown, and the person said that they doubt it. But I've talked to other people who do TV deals as well, and they think that there was definitely something happening there. So I get conflicting views from people who have some direct experience with this. But I can't imagine what else would convince him to do this. I don't think that he just out of the decency of his heart decided that's just not in Vince McMahon's character. It's everything that I've witnessed for the last my entire life, I guess. That he sees him. He's not somebody who really admits to wrongdoing. He's somebody, and I don't know that he would sincerely believe that he's done anything wrong in his view.
Right.
I think I think he lives in a different world, in a different time, with a different, or maybe a lack of sense of moral values. That he thinks that this is all consensual, probably in his view, and he did. What's the big deal?
Hey, so Brandon, would you sort of like rule out the possibility that more stories coming out, like we saw Ted Palazzolo and Ted Mann from the Wall Street Journal. They talked about that on Busted Open Radio about how they were looking at potential other stories coming out, and sort of seeing what they can find out, and talk to more sources and stuff like that, and talk to more people. Do you think that you would sort of rule out that being a reason why Vince would step away in this manner, like even though there could be more coming out as far as those stories go?
It could be the case that, and I believe HBO's Real Sports with Brian Gumbel is working on a piece too.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not in this month. I know that's a monthly show. Maybe that's happening next month. But those outlets may be in Wall Street Journal, Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, maybe reach out to WWE to ask them questions, which may be cluing WWE in and Vince in on what their story is going to be about. They may have a good idea about what's still to come out, which I think there is still, at least I'm pretty confident that there's going to be Real Sports with HBO Real Sports with Brian Gumbel piece.
Yeah.
There might be another Wall Street Journal piece. Andrew, you're referring to the interview that those two reporters, Ted Mann and Joe
Palazzolo.
Thank you. They did an interview with Busted Open, and they didn't promise that they were going to do a thorough article, but they were continuing to report. And I believe Mike Johnson from PW Insider has said that they are working on a story. I don't know if they're necessarily guaranteed to do a third story here, but they're still working on it. And I do hear things about them reaching out to people. So there's definitely more to come.
And real quick, Chris, because I got something I want to talk to Brandon about real quick, but also I've seen that we do have some comments and some super chats. Chris, are you able to bring up the comments, or is that something only I have the power to do?
Well, I don't have the power to do that yet. So
you ain't got the power, Chris?
Nah,
Try clicking on them. Somebody should be able to put it on the screen. Maybe, if you have the power. If you click on it,
does somebody besides me have the power, or am I He-Man in this situation, and y'all just the masters of the universe?
The administrator has the power to do it. So I think that's unique.
Yeah.
All right. So
I can do it on my own StreamYard.
All right, Chris, you can go ahead with your point, and I will bring up some of the comments while you are talking, my brother.
So yeah, I guess I want to know, because the question I'm getting the most, Brandon, I think you're the person to ask this to, is people keep asking me, is this smoke and mirrors? Is this real? They can't wrap their head around. So I see the super chat up, but they can't wrap their brain around the idea that Vince is really gone, and we still know he's the majority shareholder in WWE. So how exactly does that work with him being away from the decision making process, the creative process in WWE? but is still able to, make money with WWE.
Right. So Vince owns about 37% of the shares. He has special class B shares, so each one of his shares counts 10 times versus most everybody else's. So essentially, he has about 80% of the voting power right now. I did the math earlier today. He can sell his shares down. He can sell like just over 10 or 11 million of his shares down and still be in majority control. That would liquidate, if the stock holds up, that would liquidate like over $700 million. What does that mean? For one thing, I believe it means that there's an annual shareholders meeting every April, and he has the power to. I don't know if he has the power to nominate the shareholders, but he definitely has the power to approve of them and to vote on them. He would probably have to approve of any sale of WWE because I believe if NBC Universal / Comcast were to acquire or get close to acquiring WWE, I would think that that's something that comes down to a shareholder vote. But I think day to day, if he's truly out of power, and I understand people's skepticism about that, but if he's truly out of power day to day, I don't think he has any authority to do much else besides these sort of high level transaction decisions and board of directors decisions.
Right.
So that's what's happening there. Now, on the other hand, he's still the father of one of the co-CEOs, and he's probably got a close relationship with the other co-CEO, Nick Khan. And I'm sure that Stephanie and Vince are going to continue to talk about business, and Vince is probably going to function as a de facto advisor for the rest of his life.
A liaison, if you will.
Yes.
Hey, Nate, can you bring that super chat back up again, so we can highlight it? And, okay. So sending all y'all my love. Thank you for Saturday night, and kudos to Andrew for being a news machine this week.
Yes.
Get some rest soon, bro.
Very, very little sleep this week,
Appreciate
man.
that,
But I live for it, man. I live for it. It's all good.
Here's another comment that I think is directed directly, squarely at Chris that I think we need to highlight real quick. There we go. Chris out here spoiling ROH for the people. Come on, dog.
I know. I'm channeling my inner Tony Schiavone. That'll put butts in seats.
and
Don't
also,
bother turning to ROH. Serena Deeb is on right now.
And the Blue Jays aren't playing tonight, so we safe on that front, fellas.
Right, yeah. So I
also wanted to highlight a comment from Marcus Vanderberg. Says shout out to Brandon, brother Brandon. He light skinned up here on the Nubian Wrestling
Said he light
Advocates. We
Let's
appreciate that,
see.
Marcus.
Yeah. Anyway.
Go ahead, Chris.
Nothing. So, like, I do think that Vince McMahon, for any naysayers out there, I do really think, he's not going to be a part of the decision-making process in WWE for the foreseeable future. I just don't see the sense that would make to tell the public, false information, and then get the stockholders angry at you for no reason, right? So I don't think this is fool's gold. What's Steve Willie saying?
Yeah, Steve Willie. If Vince were actually retiring, there'd be weeks of televised celebrations. And thanks for getting Papa John's sweaty face in my head.
Oh yeah, no problem with that.
Shout out to you, Steve.
Hey, Nate, I wanted to ask you, like, what did you think about Stephanie McMahon leading the crowd at SmackDown in Boston to get the thank you Vince chance?
I mean, it's kind of par for the course, right?
Right.
I want to say this as diplomatically, I guess is the good word, Brandon, as possible. Like, this is the same person that compared the terrorist attacks, the 9/11 attacks, to her father, being taken to court, sued by the government. So these folks, I think Brandon mentioned it earlier, they kind of live in this bubble that is not, I don't want to go as far as to say detached from reality, but it's certainly an alternate reality that most of us are living in day to day. So it didn't surprise me, man. Like the thank you, Vince, like, because I think that's something we can talk about here in a little bit, because when you look at Vince McMahon, much like when you look at, somebody, and then this might get a little crazy here, when you look at somebody like a Bill Cosby.
Right.
When you look at somebody like a R. Kelly.
Yeah.
When you look at somebody like a Michael Jackson, when you look at somebody like a Elvis Presley, got a movie out right now starring Tom Hanks in a fat suit. When you look at somebody like Elvis Presley, there is always this discussion around art versus artist. And with Vince, like you can credit Vince with a lot of stuff, man.
Hey, Nate, I had to cut you off, but you could throw Benoit in that loop. They do the people do the same thing with Benoit.
Hold on. Let me finish my train of thought real quick, Chris. So I think with Vince, and I'll kick it around so everybody can get a chance to answer this one. With Vince, I think you cannot diminish what he has meant to this business, right? You cannot diminish the fact that pretty much our modern interpretation, our modern expectations, our modern definition of this sport have been in some way, shape, or form molded by this one dude, for better or for worse. So you got to give him credit on that level, but that to me does not excuse the behavior. It does not excuse the behavior that we've been talking about this past month, and it certainly doesn't excuse the behavior for the past 3 or 4 decades of this dude's life, right? Like, this is not a good dude. This is not a good person. This is, Chris, you said he's a dishonorable man doing an honorable thing, and I think dishonorable might even be too generous for the character of this person, at least from what I have read, what I have heard, what I've seen people say. And it extends to the on-screen product when we're talking about some of the racist stuff, some of the sexist stuff, some of the homophobic stuff, like the stereotypes that we've talked about over the years in this company. You cannot excuse that just because this dude made you feel good at WrestleMania 19 or at SummerSlam 92. Like, he did some good stuff, but he also was part and parcel of creating some of the, or at least encouraging some of the toxic behaviors and toxic opinions in this sport. And I'll leave it here with this, Chris, and then toss it over to you. It reminds me of the old Chris Rock joke about America's relationship with black people, right?
Yeah.
Like, America is the land of opportunity, but it's also kind of like the uncle that paid your way through college, but then, abused you every summer. And that's how I look at Vince McMahon. Like, Vince created a lot of this. Like, there's a chance the 4 of us wouldn't be talking right now if not for Vince McMahon, because I'm sure seeing some of those old shows back in the day was part of what got us hooked into wrestling. But that don't excuse the behavior, and that's what I got to say about that, Chris.
I see a lot of like the human condition. We are very attached to memories, right? Especially like the older we get, those childhood and youth memories just mean that much more to us, right? So like with somebody like R. Kelly or Bill Cosby or any of these people, Chris Benoit, and we're not judging who is the worst.
Right.
I got no time for that bullshit. Yeah. But people remember where they were and who they were with and how they felt when the Ignition remix came out, right?
Yes.
And people remember being young and with their friends when Benoit won the world title at WrestleMania 20 and stuff like that. So those memories are important. And I don't like to, tell people, oh, don't have a fondness for those memories, because that's certainly your prerogative. Me personally, with someone like R. Kelly or Benoit, or even like Vince McMahon, I can appreciate their contributions to society in a vacuum, but I just have a hard time celebrating them. Michael Jackson, I'm never giving up ever. So let's just come for me later. But but Michael, but yeah, but these people, I just I feel a way about I just R. Kelly, I can't listen to his music anymore
Right.
and feel good about it. I just can't. And Benoit, I can't watch his matches and feel good about those either. You know what I'm saying? And I thought it was kind of like when Jordan Grace was it Jordan Grace that made that?
Yeah, Jordan Grace.
Yeah.
When she made that tweet and the way the wrestling community kind of came for her, I thought that was a little disingenuous, because at the end of the day, this guy did, he did what he did. Yeah. There's no hiding behind that, man.
Right.
And I say this as somebody who has killers in my friends and families, people who have been in jail and who are in jail for heinous things. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it just is what it is, it's in Vince McMahon. You can appreciate the moments, but we have to understand that this guy has not answered for anything he's done as far as these accusations are concerned for the last 30 whatever years it's been, and that's what bugs me the most about it, is just okay, you're being accused of stuff, but anytime he's accused, the company like runs away from it or hides behind it, or but if anybody does any little thing to WWE to leave a black mark on it, you get the self-destruction of Ultimate Warrior, or you get Sasha and Naomi left us and disgraced us, or you get all the you get Billionaire Ted's Wrestling War Room and Hulk and the Huckster and the Nacho Man and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And this is kind of the environment he's been cultivating for years. You know what I'm saying? It's like, WWE, we are the good guys, and anybody that does anything against us are the bad guys. You know? And if you're in the WWE universe, it's an offense to you personally as well.
Hey, Chris, I thought that was a real good point you brought up about like people having like being attached to memories and stuff like that, and especially those personal connections. Because there was like a conversation sort of going around on social media yesterday about some of the former employees of Vince McMahon, speaking so highly of him, although they know about these, allegations that are against him, and have known about past allegations that are still out there, as specifically referring to the Rita Chattis and stuff that has resurfaced over the last month. And so, like, I think that's an interesting conversation to have as far as like these people, when they see Vince, I think that they view him as this individual who changed their lives from a financial standpoint. And I think that they have a sort of affinity to him as like, or some type of like allegiance to him for what he has done for them. And they can sort of look past everything that is being said about him and everything that he's being accused of, and just view him as this individual that has benefited them from a personal standpoint, and not looking at what he's contributed, not a contributor, but what he's done, all the wrongdoings that he's done, and most of that stuff has been resurfaced as of late.
Yeah, and he's placed himself in the role of the victim too, right? Vince McMahon, that he's done a great job of that. He's told people for decades, whether it be Phil Mushnick, who I personally do not like Phil Mushnick. I think he's a racist and a shitty journalist. That's my opinion of the guy. But when the stuff he was writing about WWE in the 90s was, for the most part, it was true, right? But Vince McMahon is able to make himself a victim out of that. He's able to make himself a victim when Ted Turner and Eric Bischoff are buying up all these wrestlers. He's able to turn the whole company into victims with the Stand Up for WWE campaign. You know what I'm saying? That is what the best abusers on the planet, that is their MO. It's like it's the gaslighting, and it's the I am the victim. You know what I'm saying? It's don't believe this person, believe that person. That's why certain people got and I'm not taking sides in this situation, but with the Johnny Depp thing, certain people felt that was what Johnny Depp was doing in the Amber Heard case.
Yeah. And it's also projection from your audience in a lot of cases in terms of who they support. But real quick, Chris, I want to bring attention to this comment from Michael. And Michael, we appreciate you watching, brother. We welcome everybody's opinions here on the show. Michael says it is totally ridiculous. Whatever happened is between Vince and the females. It is known as business. It is no one's business what happened to that. I would say, Michael, I disagree, because here's the thing, right? Like, you can say this is a personal thing. You can say this is a consensual thing. Just because it's consensual does not mean that it is morally right. Does not mean that it is ethically right. And Chris, you can speak on this, man. In business, what might be legally right ain't always ethically right, and sometimes that's what you got.
And this is probably not legally right either. I think
that's the thing. Exactly.
People are hearing this story and they're jumping to this conclusion, especially if you are a WWE diehard, a stand up for WWE person. You will read this story. It's like, oh, I don't see what's wrong with this. Vince McMahon paid $7 million to a bunch of women for blowjobs over the years or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But if it's quid pro quo involved, and it was, again, read my article, goddammit. Guys, plug
for WrestleNomics. Plug for WrestleNomics.
I'm just saying, I explain this ad nauseum. It is. If you are,
it's on the front page of WrestleNomics.com right now. You can read it.
Yes.
Talk to them, Brad. Talk to them. Let them know where they can find it.
If you cannot be a boss of a company and put a employee, no matter if they're male or female, in a position to where they feel they have to do sexual favors for you in order to keep their job. I brought up Meritor Savings Bank, Vincent versus Meritor Savings Bank. This was a Supreme Court case back in the 70s. The whole idea behind that, and the reason why it's an important case, is because the victim in that case felt that if she didn't continue having sex with her boss, that she would lose her job. And then she took a vacation from work, and then all of a sudden she got fired from her job. And then when you dig deep into the woods of the case, it looked like he fired her because she got tired of the sexual relationship and she ended it. That's where the power dynamic comes into play, and this is where where it could be against the law too. Is now this person's job is indicative of them maintaining this sexual relationship with you. So Michael, you are factually probably wrong. We don't know the details of what's going on with Vince and stuff, but you can't just jump to the conclusion that this guy is innocent and it is just his business. And also Vince was accused of worse things than this quid pro quo shit. He was accused of actual rape. That's probably going to be harder to prove, but this quid pro quo stuff, if it either happened or it didn't happen, they admit that it's on the books that this woman got a goddamn 100% raise. And she almost got a 200% raise. A 200% raise for a paralegal. 100% is bad enough. It's like Jesus Christ, what kind of paralegal was this woman to go from $100,000 a year to $200,000 a year? And Vince actually wanted to pay her $300,000 a year if those accounts are true. This is nuts.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think Chris hit the nail on the head, man. That power dynamic is just like absolutely ridiculous. So for you to be a company head and a CEO and to be sort of like gaslighting an individual in that way, it's like, hey, just be quiet, don't say nothing. Like, I'm gonna keep paying you and up your pay and doing this. You're like enticing this person to want to be quiet, but at the same time, you're suppressing their story and you're suppressing what you've been doing to them in that gaslighting. So yeah, I think Chris, what Chris just said, hit the nail on the head. I ain't even cut you off, Brandon.
You're good. And so we have, I think, our 6 different allegations across from 1986 with Rita Chatterton, and then we have various allegations in the last 20 years or so, 4 of which we have learned about recently through the Wall Street Journal. And each case is different. There's everything from Rita Chatterton alleging rape to sexual harassment, unwanted pictures, and things like that. We just spent some time just now talking about one of those situations, which is the paralegal story, which was the main subject of the first Wall Street Journal story. None of these women, by the way, say that what happened between them and Vince was consensual or wanted, even though Vince may say that it is consensual. None of them have gone on the record to say that it is consensual. So there's that part, and if anything, you've got Rita Chatterton, you've got one of the unnamed women in the second Wall Street Journal story saying she was coerced into oral sex. That means she didn't want to do it. She was coerced into it. And then you have 2 cases of sexual harassment. The older story from 2006 at the tanning salon, where a woman was being given unwanted nude photos of Vince by Vince. And then I believe he tried to force himself on her, allegedly. And then we have another story of unwanted nude photos being sent by Vince to an employee at WWE. So if anything, we have stories to the contrary, or at least allegations to the contrary, that any of this was consensual or wanted.
Yeah. And we're going to stay with Brandon here for a second. I'm going to bring up this comment from Steve, but because I also want to get Brandon's opinion on separating Vince, the creator, versus Vince, the accused here. But Steve says, Nate, you know what I do for a living. If I had a consensual relationship with the supervisee, I'm losing my license and facing jail time. Yes, you are absolutely 100% correct, Steve. Like Chris mentioned, that power dynamic that is there. And Brandon. So Brandon, when we're talking about Vince, like the architect of modern wrestling in a sense, versus Vince, the human being that has so many faults, some on the record, a lot probably hidden from the records or stricken from the records. What is your opinion, as both somebody that covers this stuff in detail and also as somebody that loves this stuff, man? Like, let's not get it twisted. Yes, we're analyzing this, but we wouldn't be here if we didn't love this stuff. So how do you kind of reconcile that in your mind with Vince?
I've had I don't know Vince, but I have a complicated relationship with Vince and his product for a long time. But he's clearly the most influential person in wrestling in my lifetime, at least. I don't think anybody else comes close. I don't even know who would be number 2. I'm not sure. It's not clear off the top of my head. Yeah. I think
not you, Tony Khan. Sorry.
Yeah, we're getting there. I think Vince's story, his life story. I've thought this, kind of realized this thought years ago, is that his story is a uniquely American story, in that he definitely perceives himself, and to some extent it's true, he has this life of disadvantage where he grew up in a trailer park, and he had a mother and a stepfather who were abusive to him, and he believes that he has no privilege and that he had to do everything himself and grab his own bootstraps. And I think he greatly discounts the fact that his father was a wrestling promoter that allowed him to become a wrestling promoter. As Chris was mentioning, he has all of these grievances and all of these ways in which he's being treated unfairly and is a victim, whether that's the media and columnists like Phil Mushnick. Perhaps his latest feeling is against the Wall Street Journal. The United States government indicting him for conspiracy to distribute steroids. All the while, he's this entrepreneur who did concoct a very successful business, and it's all about entertainment. And a lot of that entertainment exploits caricatures of racist and sexist and homophobic characters.
He put like goddamn half the industry, probably 75% of the industry, out of business with his creation. You know what I'm saying? He kind of just destroyed the territory system as well.
Yeah, and since I was a teenager, I grew up as a teenager in the Attitude Era, and you know, this was when, you know, wrestling was at the most popular it's ever been, or it's ever been in my lifetime. And I got really, really into it, but I was into it as a younger kid too. I ended up becoming a wrestler, and I remember clearly a night where like my grandfather came over, and wrestling was at like the height of its popularity, and I must have been like in the other room watching wrestling or something like that. And he was over for dinner, and we got to the dinner table, and he was, you know, sort of, you know, decrying the way that wrestling was now, and you know, it's all this, you know, sexualized and you know, and violent nonsense. It's not like how it was back in, I don't know, Bruno's day or Ilya Apollo's day or something like that. And like as a teenager, I felt like really, really ashamed of it. Like, oh man, you know, my grandfather doesn't like it. And I think there's some bias from moments like that, or of becoming a wrestler and having to explain to people what wrestling is, or them already having a preconceived notion about what wrestling is. And I would think, you know, well, maybe wrestling wouldn't have such a stigma if Vince didn't create the product that he creates. And and then we get into economic ways in which he could make a better product and make his product more popular and more profitable. But he's done a lot to try to change the perception. He's done a lot to try to change the packaging of his product and not call it pro wrestling, and to call it something else, and call it WWE and sports entertainment. But ultimately, at his core, he's still producing, you know, this carny, sophomoric product. He wants to change the outside, but he doesn't ultimately have the ability to change what's inside.
Right.
And on the subject of, I guess, the way people feel about him, that we're seeing a lot of in the last couple days, with people praising him for, oh my God, he was such a big part of my childhood. I think wrestling will survive without Vince McMahon. We're seeing comments from people, and I understand if you worked for him and you made a living, you have a great life because of him, that's one thing. But we're seeing a lot of people, you know, fans and even people in wrestling media really praising him and thanking him, and this, in my opinion, it's embarrassing display in Boston where, you know, Stephanie is leading a "Thank You, Vince" chant. But wrestling will survive without Vince. It survives. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead and finish.
Wrestling was popular before Vince McMahon. Wrestling was popular during Vince McMahon. If Vince McMahon wasn't there during the 80s and 90s and 2000s, it still would have been popular. I don't know if it would have been as popular, but it would have survived. Wrestling will survive after Vince McMahon.
What gets on my nerves about a lot of WWE wrestlers is just the way they sell themselves short as to what their own accomplishments and what their own contributions were to WWE. It's not like Vince McMahon just gave you a bunch of shit. You were paid to do a job, and you did the job well. It was a symbiotic relationship. And Vince McMahon he's created this environment with a bunch of subservient people to him in this one industry where it's like, oh, Vince McMahon gave me so much. He didn't give you a fucking thing. You worked for him, and he compensated you for making his company money, and in the process, you made yourself money. You don't have to have this ass kissing thing. It's like with me and my job. That my first professor job changed my life forever. But I also helped the school out because they had a need for diversity that wasn't there before I got there. You know what I'm saying? So again, Alice Walker says you lose your power by thinking you do not have any power. You know what I'm saying?
Talk to him.
All these people, the New Day, Steve Austin, the Hulk Hogan, The Rock, all of these people, they contributed to Vince. Vince McMahon didn't do this shit by his fucking
By
self.
himself. Yes, talk to him, Chris. Talk to him.
This attitude has to die.
Bro, like I was saying the same thing, Chris. Like, just to piggyback on what you saying, like this idea that it was like this whole thing that we all talk about is just Vince. I'm talking about specifically related to WWE, like it's Vince and Vince only. He has had an abundance of people who have come along throughout his tenure as the CEO and chairman of WWE that have helped him establish WWE as to what it is on the creative part, and also as help on that business side as well. You can look at people, Bruce Pritchard, Brian Gewirtz, and all these variety of the wrestlers in themselves, the production people, the light stage. It's so many people that help make this thing go. Yeah, it's not just him. He's the face of it in terms of like when you look at the WWE brand, that's Vince McMahon's thing, or was Vince McMahon's thing at this point.
And
they're
doing
automatically associated with him.
And they're doing it at the expense of their own livelihood and body and times with their family and all that shit. Let me read this by my boy Henry Thompson. He's a fellow professor in the South Carolina area. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Thanks for the show, Team Chris. When I mentioned what I'm referring to, any disciplinary measure that results from the injury. Will this resignation get him off the hook for his action? Okay, so the thing with quid pro quo in most situations, that the way I understand it is it's not the same as, like, I wouldn't call it consensual sex, but it's not forcible sex either. What it is you put somebody in a weird situation where they have to choose between going broke or having sex with you. There are a lot of people who Vince's proposition that probably said no to him at the risk of making money. But there's a lot of people who said yes to him for, in that same vein. And everybody's situation is different. So I think the most that we can hope for with Vince is that, if he gets sued, he loses. I don't see Vince getting any jail time for this. I just don't see it happening because it's not technically a rape.
Hey, Nate.
Go ahead, Andrew.
No, I actually wanted to ask you, man. Like, I know you probably saw the Rita Chattis and stuff popped. I know Brandon mentioned it, like I'll say, like 10 minutes ago or so. But that has recently resurfaced primarily because of that New York Magazine feature. And did she actually, when it did an interview with the Cheap Heat Productions podcast, she like sat down with them for like 20 minutes or so, and she was asked about this was before his resignation as CEO and stuff. This was when the first, I think it was after the second Wall Street Journal article had dropped. Like, just specifically speaking on that, like, do you think in terms of like the conversation about what Vince paid for this, like even with that whole story been out there, she openly spoke about it, like she's on record multiple times speaking about it, like, but with that situation being out there for so long and like he is not paid for that in a bit, do you think that sort of is like going to be of similar vein in terms of like what's going on right now, like the fact that she has accused this man of sexually assaulting her, and like that story has been out there for decades at this point.
Yeah, since 91.
And he has not like paid the suffer the lick a bit for that at all. Yeah,
well, then that's the thing, Andrew. Like, there are like we're right now, like the last month, as Brandon alluded to, like we've been kind of focusing on 2 or 3, now 6, particular stories that have happened recently where this man has a track record, right, of allegations of people that have come up and said things against him, and there's. I think you said earlier, Chris, somebody had asked you, will Vince be held accountable? And the answer to me, quite simply, is no, because there's no way. Like, he might get held accountable for one of these things, but the people that he has hurt along the way, man. And
right. I think this right now is him. I think accountability, again, it just depends on what your definition of accountability is, right? If you're thinking jail time, I just do not see that happen.
No, I mean we know Vince ain't going to no jail.
This public shaming is accountability on a certain level. You know what I'm saying? It might not be the accountability that you want, But
And it's not even what I want or what you want or
Yeah.
what Brandon wants or what Andrew wants. It's what these victims want, right? What these people that he has done this stuff to. Because I think that's a part of the story that kind of gets lost in the Vince of it all. And I do want to make sure that we at least talk about it a little bit tonight, is that, man, you done traumatize people, dog. Like, regardless of whether, this crossed the line into forcible sex or, it's in that gray area, Chris, you done hurt a lot of people, man. And you got the nerve and the gall and the audacity to still be out here talking about, we in this together.
Yeah, and we got to
Hooray
talk about
for Vince. Let's cheer for Vince, man.
And we got to talk about Titus O'Neil too. So
yeah,
Oh,
we're gonna talk
my
about.
God.
You already know we're gonna talk about Titus
Oh
O'Neil.
my goodness, man.
But you have the audacity to kind of be out here, painting yourself. It's the classic Vince move. I'm gonna paint myself as somebody who's being besieged. Like all these issues, all these problems that I caused are coming back to come and get me. Where's all these consequences coming from, right? And there's no accountability, in my opinion, by Vince over these years. One thing I did want to touch on, though, before we got into some of the other issues surrounding this, though, Brandon, was something Kate had said last night on the SmackDown review that I hadn't heard, or if I'd read it, I'd forgotten about it. Was there something in all of this about, and maybe it's the payments, the hush money, if you will, like the misappropriation of the funds? Is that something that could be, part of what got Vince, in this situation where he is over the past 24 hours?
It looks like the $12 million that he spent to get these women to sign NDAs is his personal money. What's not personal money is the salary of the former paralegal, who started with a $100,000 salary, and as Chris mentioned, had her salary doubled to $200,000. The second Wall Street Journal article says that he wanted her salary tripled to $300,000.
It's ridiculous.
They settled on $200,000. Now, she was being compensated company money. Maybe there's an argument that was defrauding the company.
So, and I made this allusion earlier. I was watching True Ill Heat. Shout out to SP3 and Chrissy Love and Steffi and the crew over there, Romeo. Like, this kind of feels to me, Andrew, like Al Capone, right? Like, what got Al Capone wasn't the bootlegging.
Yeah, it was.
Wasn't the gun running.
The tax evasion.
Wasn't the murdering. It was the tax evasion and ultimately the syphilis. But more importantly, it was the tax evasion. It was the tax evasion that got Al Capone. And so in this way, it kind of feels like maybe it's not the moral stuff here so much that's going to get Vince. It's, hey, dog, you mess with the church's money.
It's a business side, yeah, man.
Yeah, because
that's kind of pathetic. That's what it is, though. That's probably what it likely is, that it's the business side that getting it, opposed to the moral stuff that's getting to them. That's
right.
Shit is
Because
sick, bro.
WWE is a big company.
Yeah.
So I imagine, I don't know how many paralegals that they have working for them, but I imagine 100,000. I didn't get $100,000 right out of college when I became a paralegal. But
maybe you should have stepped up your paralegal game, dog.
I know, right? but 100,000 is about right. What I would say, right, for a good paralegal.
Right.
Yeah.
200,000 is that's just money that I can't even fathom for a paralegal. For that particular line of work. It's just insane. And using company funds to do that, if I was a shareholder in that company, I would definitely have questions about that. It just doesn't sound right. It doesn't pass the smell test. Update: Samoa Joe made Jay Lethal tap.
Damn, Chris.
No spoilers.
Chris out here just spoiling. I Tony Schiavone.
Hey, I do TK. I do think it's weird how I got an invite to one media call and haven't gotten another one since. I haven't gotten another email at all. So,
Um,
And he attacked your scooter, so maybe it's beef between you and TK on these
I
scooters.
know that maybe there's something going on there that I don't know about.
Hey, y'all, remind me real quick. When did that second Wall Street Journal article drop? like what was the exact date of that? If any of y'all remember, can y'all recall like at all? Like
Was
when
it
that second-
Friday?
The first one was June 15th.
The first one was June 15th, and the second one was it early or late July? Oh, not late July. We in July right now, but was it like? I'm trying to remember that because the only reason I was bringing that up because I had remembered when one of the board
July
of directors,
8th.
July 8th.
July 8th.
No, oh, Brandon. So I want to ask you that. I remember the dude, what's his name? Connor Shell. He was
Connor
on the
Shell.
board of directors. Yeah,
Yes.
he resigned from the board of directors like the day before that second Wall Street Journal article dropped. Because I know that he resigned on the 7th of July, and you said that board of directors. I mean that second Wall Street Journal article dropped on the 8th. If that's correct. So that was like a sort of interesting like timing thing. Like, of course, I don't know if he was tipped off, he knew, or maybe it just had something to do with the last story. But I thought that was like sort of an interesting thing. Like, I remember when that happened. I was like, it didn't. The next day that Wall Street Journal article dropped.
Yeah, so Connor Shell is one of the producers behind ESPN 30 for 30, I think. And he was a relatively new appointment to the board of directors. He's a former client of Nick Khan at CAA. So he was on. He'd only not been on the board of directors that long, but they put out a filing, saying that Mr. Shell's decision. This is Andrew Thompson coverage here. Mr. Shell's decision is to resign from the board was not due to any dispute or disagreement with the company, its management, or the board, or on any matter relating to the company's operations, policies, or practices. So they got some sentences in there to say, there's nothing happening here. He has an expanded role at the North Road Company, which was somebody rolling up some other companies together. So there may be something to that. I don't know if that's enough to really resign from the board, but they have a justification anyway.
Brandon, real quick, because before we got to get into Titus here, unfortunately. But in terms of, like you mentioned, Nick Khan, like I think something I've seen a lot, and maybe it's just the mentality of wrestling fans. Sometimes, like there's always got to be some type of intrigue, some type of story. There's a lot of people that are casting this as some sort of Succession or Game of Thrones or something of that nature, where you got Nick and Stephanie and Triple H and all these moving chairs and Pritchard and Kevin Dunn. So how much of that do you buy into? Kind of the talk on the internet about, this sort of civil war in the boardroom for the WWE. How much is there any truth to that, or how much is just kind of fodder that the humanoids is out here talking about, man?
You're asking me, Nate?
Yes.
Okay, you put the camera on me, so I guess you're right.
I'm hosting the show. I'm directing the show, bringing up the comments and the super chats. I got this on lock, Brandon.
Directing a lot of traffic here. So I think there's the meme. I think Nick Khan has kind of become a meme to at least Twitter, to things that I see and I see shared, right? Like the Mortal Kombat.
The Mortal Kombat one.
Opponent scream, he's going up the ladder. I tend to doubt there's a ton of truth to Nick Khan being this master manipulator who's going through each opponent one by one. He did climb the ladder at CAA, so that's something. I don't think Nick Khan came to WWE in August 2020 and said, okay, this is how I can take out this person and this person, and this is how I can consolidate this department. I don't think it's as calculated as that. I think Stephanie,
but should an opportunity arise, do you think that he, and again, this is all conjecture, this is not, this is speculation. Do you think he'd be the type of person that would hop on that opportunity?
I don't know. I feel like we don't really know.
Hey, Brandon. Hey, Brandon, real quick. Like I remember that this interview that Nick Khan had did with Ariel Helwani. Wow, but I think it was before SummerSlam last year. He was doing like a series of interviews, and I remember he got asked about how that sort of the memes that we're talking about right now, how Nick Khan is portrayed as this sort of mastermind who's coming into WWE and trying to climb the ranks. And I remember his exact wording was, if I'm the person that people look at, and I think it was like, this was specifically referring to all these people being released from WWE and stuff like that. He was just like, if I'm the person that people look at as this person who is causing all this rift in WWE, then I will take that. Like, but he never confirmed or actually said that, really got into the nitty gritty of like what he's done and what he hasn't done. But he was just like, if people want to place that on me and say that I'm this quote unquote boogeyman, then I will take that. And like I didn't really know what to make of that. Like it's like how Brandon said, it's kind of hard to like actually have a direct sort of comment on it or something accurate on it.
I think comments like that at that time. You're talking about the SummerSlam of last year.
SummerSlam of last year. Yeah.
I think comments like WWE content, that those are intended for an audience of one. I think those are intended for the consumption of Vince McMahon to say, hey, look, I'll be a shield for this.
Right.
And I'll be a good soldier.
I tend to believe that Nick Khan is never going to be the sole person in charge of WWE. From what I know of corporate America, is just too nepotistic for that to happen. There's too much nepotism there. Because look at how Vince McMahon threw Stephanie under the bus and Triple H under the bus, like in the span of the year. And now both of them are in power positions of that company. I think at the end of the day, you want your blood in charge. It's just that simple. I think that Nick Khan is kind of there to be a bad guy and to catch a couple strays and stuff like that. But he's like much like Trish Stratus. He's not daddy's little girl. He is an interloper in that company. And I could just never. And as mad as Vince gets at Steph, or even his doofus son-in-law.
Doofus son-in-law.
CM Punk's words.
CM Punk, yeah, I know.
I just don't see them getting bypassed for someone that's not family.
Yeah, I mean, in the immortal words of the American prophet and philosopher Nino Brown. It's always business.
Hey man,
Never personal.
They call more family than Shane.
Yeah, well, Shane is the Trump niece in that family. What's
Mary Trump out here on the street.
Very Trump.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
I have that
quick,
book too, by the way.
I as all this came out, I had saw this story. I think it was yesterday. Paul London had did an interview on Rene Dupree's podcast, and he was talking about like how Vince would like he was like propositioning the late Ashley Mazzaro to like fly on the company jet with like him and Kevin Dunn and stuff like that, and like they like put the divas up. I don't know why I said that with the women's. That was the word he used in the quote. But he was like they would put them up at the at like the TV hotel, and like he'd be like. Paul London claimed that like Vince would like be knocking on Ashley's door and stuff like that, and like some other stuff, and it had led to me like going to find this coming across this like affidavit that she did in 2006, or it was around that time. I'm pretty sure y'all heard about it, but she wrote about like the time that she was sexually assaulted I think it was on an overseas tour in Kuwait or something along those lines, that she had went to the company, and, told him essentially went down and was told that was told by Vince that it was not in the best interest of the company that this become some public thing. And like when I read that, like because I had saw that in the line of the article, and then I wanted to go see it for myself, like to actually get like the complete context of everything. And like I saw that dude, and I was just like, that's some foul shit to tell somebody. Like you don't think it's person got like, and I don't know if anybody wants to hear like the details of like what she described, but like essentially she was given an IV that it paralyzed her temporarily paralyzed her, and she was unable to move her body, and that's when took place. And to tell somebody that went through that traumatic of an experience to be like, I don't think this is the best interest of the company, and I think we should keep this, we should keep this between us type thing. And I know that I do want to add that there is a line in there. I don't want to say too long with trying to find it, but I know that she had said, like, I don't want to read this whole thing, but like she was just like his lack of sensitivity and referring to my ordeal as one bad experience, and and stuff like that. And like Vince went on to say that I would not be required to travel to the Middle East ever again, and that the WWE would institute a new policy where anytime a female performer went to the Middle East, she would have a female WWE escort with her 24/7 to ensure it would not happen again. And that did not make her feel better about the situation. She said she felt defeated and that she felt pointless. It felt pointless to her to even like try to protest this, and it was uncomfortable to her to like for all the wrestlers and stuff to find out and all this different stuff, man. So like when you hear these stories, man, and you like specifically stories like this, like that, but like that's some like I don't think anybody's out here like, well, me at least, I'm not out here calling Vince no good person, but like that's just some like very sick and like foul shit to like even tell someone that, you know, I don't think that's the best interest of the company for you to even, you know, bring that up to the public, and then it eventually it got out anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's just foul, bro. So I just wanted to mention that real because I had saw that that story came up yesterday and missed all this stuff coming out. You know.
And again, like to some of the people that might be thinking
lawsuit, I think, right?
Yeah. That's exactly what that CTE lawsuit. Yep.
And again, to some of the people that might be thinking like, oh, this is just one isolated incident. Like, nah, man. There is a track record, decades of this kind of behavior, this type of attitude, and you know, it's just. I was surprised, Brandon. Like maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. Maybe I was being a little too naive at the time. I thought Vince was gonna get got during speaking out. And the fact that he just kind of tiptoed on past that, man, that was always something that just in the back of my head. I was like, how? Like, I understand money. I understand power. I understand being a rich, powerful, old white man. I mean, not personally. I ain't never had that opportunity to experience that type of lifestyle. But I understand how there are privileges that come with that and how you can insulate yourself from consequences. But it's like, dog, like all of it. Like, and half of this stuff ain't even a secret, like, right, Chris? Like, people know this stuff, and this man been getting away with this. So the fact that now, finally now, we're starting to see at least some modicum of accountability being put on this man. Like, it's like, why did it take so long, dog?
Right, and you have to understand, too, from this perspective, this guy ran a business for the greater part of 20 years where the end goal for 90% of the people in that industry is to get to where it's the place that Vince McMahon runs, you know. He's had a monopoly for all intents and purposes. There's this concept by Timur Koren. He came out with this in 1990, 95, I want to say. Timur, Timur, Curran, Kuran. Look him up. It's called preference falsification. So the idea behind preference falsification is in a dictatorship regime, everybody praises the dictator. But once that regime falls down, people will start acting like, oh, I never liked that guy. You know, it was like, I was never on the side of him. He used East Germany as an example when the Berlin Wall fell and how the regime in charge, once the wall fell, the citizens of the country started acting like, oh, we were never for the regime in power. We were always against that guy. And Vince McMahon, you're going to start seeing a lot of that because he ran. People have actively and still actively lie for Vince McMahon just to protect him. Even if it's a small lie, you know, they still lie for him. You know, because there's got to be more people know more things than what is let on, you know. And people just kind of let it go. And if in the end, you don't want to burn bridges with this guy because he's the one I don't give a fuck if I burn a bridge with every university in California because I could just move to New York and work a job there and do the same thing. You know, there's like hundreds of colleges all over the United States of America, right? there's only one WWE where you make WWE money, and now there's
Right.
an AEW that kind of splits that play. It's still a duopoly, though. You know, it's the whole. Yeah, you could be in the Green Party, and you could be in the Libertarian Party, and all this other stuff, the Constitution Party, but the political parties that run everything are Democrats and Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's other companies out there, but unless you've got some really good side hustles, right now you want to be in WWE or AEW. You know what I'm saying? And,
I mean, unless you want to control your narrative.
oh yeah,
That's the thing.
So I mean, it's just like, you know, there's got to be drastic changes to get people to change their tone. Even with AEW existing, I talked to a wrestler a while ago, and he said he still wouldn't turn on Vince because he doesn't know what AEW staying power is going to be. This is what AEW was like doing at its top with the TV deal and everything. He still, you know, wants to keep those lines of communication open with Vince. You know, it just, you know, that's the culture of wrestling in North America.
And we got a comment from Jake. Keep those comments and super chats coming. We're gonna rock for about another 30 minutes or so, 40 minutes or so. Brandon, you going to the finish line with us, or you got to dip?
I am. I'm here. I'm good.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why we call on this man, Brandon Thurston.
Hey, did y'all know Daniel Garcia put Brandon Thurston over on Chris Jericho's podcast? Did y'all hear this?
Okay.
Put him over big time, man. He was talking about how Brandon played a big role in his training. I just bring that up. Brandon, I had to bring that up because you stand on
the
podcast,
trainer of
man.
Champions, Brandon Thurston.
Look at Brandon. Hey, Chris, what's the ROH update, brother? What's going on?
Right now it's the FTR and the Briscoes.
Briscoes, okay. Yes,
They
and
got me in one spot.
quick programming note for those interested. You might be watching Death Before Dishonor while you're watching this, or you might be watching this in the future. Stay tuned for Way and Kate with the ROH post show. I believe that is a cafe exclusive. So y'all gotta put down some paper to see Wei Ting and Kate from Montreal talk about all of these matches that Chris just spoiled for you.
And thank you for the super chats. I didn't even think I wasn't sure we would even get one super chat tonight. So,
but
thank you for that.
Yes, we appreciate y'all, man. It's been great, man, seeing the people hop up in here with these comments and the super chats and watching us talk about this crazy story. But Jake wants to know, and we can, throw it around the room. How long before Kevin Dunn heads out the door? Do we see this as something on the horizon, gentlemen?
I think he's out the door already. He's just kind of, still got shit to pick up there. I mean, that's what I see. But that's an opinion.
What about you, Brandon?
I wouldn't be surprised if within a year he's not in the company, maybe even only a few months. It will be pretty expensive to get rid of Kevin Dunn, I think, because he probably has contingent, a pretty nice severance package that's associated with his termination.
Like a golden parachute type thing?
I think all those executives, so we see a document called the proxy statement every year, and in some of the years, Kevin Dunn is in the top 5, which means you get more information about how this person is compensated, and we get information about if they're terminated, this is what it costs to terminate them, and it's millions of dollars, right?
Oh, there is another conflict that I've been seeing going on online, Brandon, and maybe you could shed some light on this. And I've seen like half and half with all of my wrestling colleagues, so this isn't scientific at all. But does NXT 2.0 stay around?
Chris's favorite.
My worst. God, let's not go there right now.
Hey, forget about it, Chris.
Does that stick around?
Tony D?
I think NXT, being the multicolored 2.0 is something that's already in motion, and we're not going to see as much as I would like to see, and maybe
Right.
all of us would like to see, overnight change in NWA to get rid of Kevin Dunn. And by the way, Kevin Dunn's issues, probably not an ally of Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets pointed to as someone who is contributing to a toxic work environment at WWE as well, and maybe some of these future stories.
Right.
But so I don't think NXT 2.0 is going to change overnight. I don't think much of the creative side of this company is going to change overnight, but gradually,
Yeah.
it probably will.
That's that was what I was saying. I was saying I don't think it's gonna go away immediately, but I just do not see how NXT 2.0 survives, like stays what it is,
Right.
because of what Triple H worked his blood, sweat, and years building.
I mean, to that point, I can see where you're coming from, but at the same time, I feel like NXT 2.0 is at this point where, much like Brandon said, they already in the thick of it now. And at this point, when you looking at, in terms of like what Triple H built with the Black and Gold NXT, that was probably one of my favorite wrestling products during that period of time. But most of the wrestlers that he had are over at AEW, and then on top of that, you have this other thing now with Ring of Honor that Tony Khan owns, and then you would think that other wrestlers are probably gonna flock to there as well, because that's another valuable option that you can consider. So like, I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, so if he does have interest in bringing back that pre 2.0 NXT, what exactly could that look like, and who is on the market in terms of like big name valuable guys or big name valuable women that you can bring in that isn't already affiliated or working with an AEW/ROH that doesn't have a working relationship with them in some kind of way. And I think that's the tasking thing. So like, I feel like now that they're all in on this NXT 2.0, but you might as well just go all the way with it. Like, you already building up people, and you got the Cora Jades and your Tony D'Angelo's and your Carmelo Hayes and the Braun Breakers and all these people. You already this deep in it. So like, I feel like now to like make this overnight change, I don't think that's gonna happen. Like, but hypothetically, like, even if you were to do like an overnight change, I think it's kind of pointless.
Look, I don't give a fuck how knee deep they are in this shit. that to me, that's an argument of convenience. It's like, oh, we're knee deep in it. You know what I'm saying?
But it's not.
There have been people that have been married. There have been people that have been married for like 50 years that at year 51, they're like, it's time to get a divorce.
Damn,
so
Chris.
I'm just saying, like, this is my problem with NXT 2.0 is that I do not know in NXT 2.0 who is there that actually want to be a wrestler, or who is there that answered some casting call at their college. Hey, you want to be a wrestler? You can make this much money. Okay, let me be a wrestler. You know what I'm saying? At least with NXT 2.0 or the regular NXT, with all the faults that it had, there were people in that company that wanted to be wrestlers. Triple H is a guy who came up through who was it? Killer Kowalski or whatever, wanted to be a wrestler. And he hired people in NXT who wanted to be wrestlers. I don't see how you just
but to that point, I definitely get what you're saying, but like, when you're talking about hiring people that don't want to be wrestlers, Bianca Belair didn't want to be a wrestler. Big E didn't want to be a wrestler. They were brought into the fold from the outside, and they just grew to eventually like what they were doing and love what they're doing. So I get what you're saying, but also
we still got Lash
like
Legend and stuff like that, you know. And then I'm not trying to
NBA player. So
but she's not a good wrestler, and she hasn't been a good wrestler for quite some time.
Dang.
It just is.
First, hold on, Chris. First Omos, and now Lash Legend. Why, Chris? Why?
She is not good. I'm just saying. It's like I don't think she's not good because she can't learn how to be a good wrestler.
Right.
I just don't think the system that she's in is
because one can make the argument NXT 2.0 shouldn't be where these folks is learning in the first place.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I just don't think
that I do agree with, like the national TV thing. Like, I feel like that whole sink or swim. Like, hey, we're
Yeah.
gonna throw y'all to the wolves, and it is what it is. And you can make your mistakes on TV. I'm like, I don't know about all that. I don't think that's gonna work out for everybody. You got some who are able to thrive in that. It's just this is in a general perspective, getting thrown out there and stuff like that. Some people gonna rise to the occasion, and it's gonna be a majority of people gonna probably fail because it's like, you just, and then on top of that, when you look at the backstage changes, like I remember early January, they did that like load of people, like they let Regal go, and like I think Ryan Cass got let go, who was a big part of the creative there for like damn near a decade at that point. Like you letting all these people go who are very much of that fabric of that old NXT, and you got some people that have this abundance of experience that can pass that on to these people that you're trying to bring in from these outside these outside sports and stuff like that.
Right. And there's like 15, 16-year-olds out there right now who watch WWE, who watch AEW, who watch Impact, that want to be wrestlers, and I think those people should be a priority over, college athletes who may or may not have that dream or may not be receptive to the business the way other people are.
Yeah, and let's get we got a friend of the program, Chad Rivera. What's up, brother? With a comment here. Enjoying the show, guys. Do you think there is any chance, or that the odds are better, that Sasha and Naomi will return to the WWE now that Vince is gone? Thoughts, fellas?
Brandon, I think you should take this one first.
I think it's more likely because you can, bring them back and sell that story that, hey, things are totally different. And much of your issues maybe were with the fact that Vince wasn't taking the women's tag titles seriously, and he's gone. And John Laurinaitis, that you may have had issues with, is gone. And I think if you've got Bruce Pritchard there, I don't know. I think a lot of be changing or not is probably going to be gradual, and it's going to be largely about who the personnel are. If Bruce Pritchard is still heading creative, it's going to be pretty similar to what it is now. But if there are a lot of different people in charge, and maybe you have maybe Sasha and Naomi have a better relationship with Triple H. I don't know that, but I would, that's very plausible to me. That you can say that, look, you're much more comfortable working with this set of people, and maybe you're willing to come back now.
Yeah, I think they should go to wherever they feel they will be the most respected, and wherever they think they could get the biggest bag. You know what I'm saying? I think they're in a power position to kind of write their own ticket. And I think a lot of people in wrestling are mad at those women because they did something that they know that if people that weren't at the talent level of Sasha Banks and Naomi pulled what they pulled in May, they would have been future endeavored a long time ago. So it would have been on the website. These two are fired, or whatever the fuck is the corporate speak for them not working there no more.
Right.
They still WWE's been dragging their feet with announcing their release. So those women are desirable. You don't have to like them, but you have to recognize what's right in front of your fucking face. Those two women can go where they want to go in wrestling and make a ton of money doing it. And AEW needs women wrestlers.
But you go ahead, Chris. You go ahead, finish up, Chris.
No, it's just that simple. The AEW needs women wrestlers. WWE still needs women wrestlers too. You know what I'm saying? Those two women are going to be fine whatever they choose to do.
Yeah, I think those are two of the most popular wrestlers out there. To be honest with you, Naomi and Sasha, I'm talking about like the term they fan base, like with like they have these like flock. And like legions of people that's like willing to go to bat for them, and like even back in 2019, it's on public record. Like Sasha Banks, I know she's spoken about this, a few times in media interviews that she had asked Vince to let her go back in 2019. I think it was after WrestleMania 35, and he was like, absolutely not. Like that happened. And she's even a bigger star now than she was then. So like I can only imagine like that sort of whole situation going down. Like you let her go, you letting her entire fan base go. The same thing with Naomi. Like we talked about the Naomi thing like hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Like all the stuff they could have done with her over the years. Like the celebrities wanting to come in and work with her, or reaching out to her on social media and all this type of stuff, all these different opportunities. But yeah, much like Chris said, like I think it's just a matter of like they can do whatever they want to do, man. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be successful at it. Like you see Sasha Banks, she's doing the meet and greet stuff, and the report, I think it was from Piper Select, that she's charging $30,000 for the appearance and stuff like that, which is honestly, when I saw it, I was like, she kind of undercharging, to be honest with you. She being nice. She being nice, especially compared to like what a lot of celebrities charge out here for these.
Sasha Banks' fans are like the Bayhive, man. they are nuts. They love and swear by her. They love
Sasha Banks, man.
Like just like I remember I was it was right after a Beyonce concert. I was at King Taco in Pasadena, waiting in line to get some tacos, and there's Bayhive fans in line, and they were talking about Beyonce. And they were saying, yeah, I love this. She had just released a new song or whatever, and I didn't know much about the new song. And they were like, hey, man, don't you think Beyonce's new song is great? And I was like, it's okay. And they were like, what? Okay. And these women were about to come for you, man. It's like they were ready to, like, because I said that the song was okay, and I've seen that. That's kind of rabid Sasha fans, man.
Yeah, Sasha Banks got fans out here on these streets.
I'm telling you.
Yeah,
fan base, man. That's crazy.
So we got about 30 minutes left in the show. We appreciate all the comments. We're gonna keep reading as many as we can. Hit the super chat if you want us to read those quicker than the other comments. But before we pivot, because Andrew does have a couple stories I want to hit on before we leave this week. Or this month, to be more exact.
And we do still have to talk about Titus. We can't leave this.
That's exactly where I was going, Chris. We've been teasing Titus for like an hour and a half now. Yeah. So, Andrew Thompson, I'm gonna let the youngest in charge tee off on this. Go ahead. What was your thoughts about what they had our good brother Titus O'Neil doing on TV, man?
So I was about to say, like, before I started, I was like, we might as well go ahead and finish the show with this, because I feel like this is like this is gonna be an interesting conversation, man. But I remember when they first had Titus out there to have him do it. So, WWE rah-rah speech. I remember I had actually tweeted out, because I didn't think that was fair to Titus O'Neil, assuming in the sense that they sent him out there and asked him to do this thing and say these specific things, and considering that he has like all these different charities, and he's like the Family Foundation is like the head of WWE's community outreach and all that good stuff. Like, I was like, I just didn't think it was fair to sort of send him out there to be the one that has to say this in case another story drops about Vince McMahon, and then that it'll get brought up, and he'll be the one to be used as a reference, or it'll get mentioned, and it'll just make him look bad overall. But like, when I saw it yesterday, like as the story came out that Vince McMahon was resigning, Titus O'Neil was under the comments, telling him thank you, and then he was posting pictures with Vince. I'm just like, brother, stand up, man. What are we doing right now, man? But like, it's. I mean, but again, it's one of those things. Like we dove into it earlier. All of us, we had a conversation about it. Like, they have these personal relationships with this dude, and they view him as somebody who changed their lives. Like, you hear some wrestlers talking about, they look at him like a father figure. You know what I'm saying? Like, wrestlers are on account saying this stuff. Like, I think Bryan Danielson said something along the lines of something like that. Like, Vince was like that sort of road to him in a certain way, like in terms of, like, I'm assuming like in a business sense or something like that. I don't think exactly like that, but yeah, it's disappointing in a way in terms of Titus. But at the same time, like, I have to understand that I don't know their relationship, and he clearly has respect for Vince, that regardless of how I view it or how I may think about Vince McMahon, I don't know the ins and outs of their relationship in terms of like what he's been able to do for Titus, or with the conversation that they had throughout the years. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to like really like jump on them, but like I still think it's like it's kind of but at the end of the day, it's hard to jump on them. So
for me, Andrew, it's disappointing, but I understand it, right?
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. Like, number one, like, Titus got a lot tied into the company in terms of his charity and whatnot, right? And let's be honest, I respect that, brother, man. Like, the stuff this brother's had to put up with. Like, let's not forget, Vince McMahon grabbed this grown-ass man's arm like a child at one time.
Right.
Let's not forget, this the dude they sent out there at WrestleMania to stand next to Terry, so Terry wouldn't get them racist chants. They sent Titus out there as a shield for Terry.
After Titus O'Neil said that he wasn't feeling Terry after he said that nonsense.
Bro, that is the sin of all sins that they have done to Titus O'Neil.
Yes, in both cases in Tampa, in his hometown.
Right, thank you, Brandon.
And they doing that, and Brandon, you want to know the crazy thing about that is you would think that they would like send him out there to like sort of promote something, especially considering his hometown. But he has an event coming up next month, and I think it's at the Raymond James Stadium. Dude is giving out like 30,000 backpacks full of like school supplies to like kids in the area, like to get ready in preparation for the school year, and that's in Tampa. So you would think that they was like have him go out there, hey, promote this. We at Raymond James, home of WrestleMania, whatever, all that, tied all the corporate stuff in there. But they sent him out there for the old rah-rah speech and stuff like that. And this is a safe space and
all that. And see, so that like real quick, Chris, like that ties back into my point, Andrew. Like why I feel like he was the guy to go out there and do that thing. He was the guy that made the comment under the post, because I feel like Titus understands the math of this, right? Like, let's be real. Titus ain't getting no run bell to bell these days like he used to. Titus ain't getting no push here, in the foreseeable future. If Titus wants to be able to do the good work that he does, and let's not sleep on the fact that this brother's out here doing great work. Mm-hmm. He kind of got to do the dance. He kind of got to play the game. So that's why, I was disappointed, Andrew.
I get it though.
But I get it.
You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, bro. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I just the thing I just didn't like about it, like Titus O'Neil has got to make the best judgments for himself.
Yeah.
I'm not in his head, so I can't tell you how he thinks. But this is the same Vince McMahon that suspended this guy for 90 days for grabbing his arm or something on camera. Yeah. And just made Vince McMahon look a little vulnerable for like 2 seconds. And he gets suspended. And this was during WrestleMania season too. That's what a lot of people forget. Is he missed WrestleMania because of that arm grab situation,
Yeah. And Steve Willie said, like, Vince is the father figure who almost fired him for touching him on Raw.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this is just, to me, kind of a one-sided relationship where you're paying this guy, but now you're sending him out there to do your embarrassing dirty work. You know what I'm saying? Right, yeah. To go out there and basically lie to people, say WWE is a place free of politics, when they've had fake George W. Bush on screen.
Barack Obama.
They had fake Trump. Barack Obama, fake Bill Clinton,
fake Hillary.
Fake Hillary. They've had Vince McMahon, as far as religion, Vince McMahon versus Shawn Michaels and God. They did the first,
so stupid, the
first McMahon family prayer at WrestleMania, where Vince was like, bro. God, I don't like you and you don't like me.
Which is probably maybe the truest thing Vince has ever said.
Yeah,
just my opinion.
And don't get me started on race,
Oh boy,
Pride High, the Orient Express,
the blackface, all of that.
This is a man that had, again, this might be one of the most egregious things. I do want to get Brandon's take on Titus real quick. But the fact, like, it's still, like, a lot of this stuff happened in the 80s, and you can be like, okay, that was a product of its time. Within the last decade, this man had Brodus Clay on TV saying, I was born to shuck and jive. Like, come on, man, what is we doing? What are we doing for Vince?
We had just a few years, I think maybe like 2017 or so. You had the Jinder Mahal and Nakamura stuff where they were using race as part of that.
They used their culture to make them heels. They went out there and did traditional Indian dance and stuff, and use that to elicit booed from whatever racist crowd they were in front of that night.
You want to know what that sort of reminded me of when Apollo Crews first did his Nigerian, the Nigerian Prince thing, and like they went in the Thunderdome, and like when Apollo Crews they turn on the booze. I'm like. that just constitutes automatic boo. But like as we sort of like wrap up this whole thing, I kind of want to swing it back over to Brandon. Like, what was sort of your assessment of the news coverage of this from a mainstream and from a wrestling media perspective? Like I know that's like a loaded question, but like just from the initial story, Wall Street Journal story, to where we are right now, to Vince McMahon being resigning from WWE. What's sort of your breakdown of the whole like the coverage from a pro wrestling aspect and from a mainstream media news outlet aspect?
I think
Ninja Tyler back. I do remember when they called New Day butts. We'll get into that. Go ahead, Brad.
I think mainstream media still looks at wrestling, no matter if we're talking about how much money they made last year or if we're talking about allegations of sexual misconduct. John Pollock called out the Reuters.
Yes.
Twitter, at least, using the image of Vince with the shaved head, with the silly look on his face. Mainstream media, and I've got it right here too. We've got the Wall Street Journal, and they have to make the pun on the ropes for alleged misconduct.
Get it?
I see what you did there.
So I don't know. Mainstream media, they don't in a lot of cases they still don't take it that seriously. On the other hand, I said at the beginning of this that this is really up to mainstream media how far this goes. And the Wall Street Journal, those Ted Mann and Joe, what's his last name, Andrew?
Palazzolo.
And I believe Joe Flint was another byline on the second article. They did enough, and other outlets in mainstream media did enough to aggregate that story to get it to the point to probably contribute to whatever the catalyst was to convince Vince McMahon that he needed to resign. Wrestling media, I don't know. I'm involved in wrestling media.
Right.
I know that there's a lot of people who are in wrestling media who are still praising Vince McMahon today. That's still happening. But there's a lot of wrestling media that I think did a good job in covering this and taking this seriously.
Right.
Yes. Real quick, because we running low on time, but I feel some type of way, Andrew Thompson, and this is the reason why I feel this type of way, some type of way. It's the Nubian Wrestling Advocates, right? And we just spent like 95, 98 minutes talking about an old white man. Granted, it's the biggest story in wrestling, but I feel like we at least got to close with some Nubian news. Andrew Thompson, you got a couple stories we can talk about before we get out of here, brother.
Yeah, I did want to touch on this, man. It's a sad thing, but it's one of those things where I definitely get where this individual has come from. We all know Biggie suffered his neck injury, and he said he was going to be reassessed around the 1 year mark, so he's probably going to get checked in March of 2023. But he had said during the interview with TMZ that if his career is over, like he's content with that, and it's okay because he's been able to do a lot of different things that he didn't expect to do, and he got his world title win, and he's able to carve out a very successful career for himself. So like, when I read that, I was like, it makes me feel good as somebody who has been able to watch his sort of career unfold, to know that this devastating thing happened to him, and like he internally is at peace with everything that he's done, but at the same time, it's kind of like, damn, like,
yeah,
it's like he's okay with it. You know what I'm saying? If that's truly it. So like, I don't know if anybody was like dive into that, but I don't know if it's like much more you can say, but like, he's content with the idea of his wrestling career being over, if that's the case.
Real quick for me, and then I'll toss it to Brandon and then Chris. Like, I'm with you, Andrew. Like, I want the best for Ettore the person, right? First and foremost, because this is a good dude, man. And as we just like spent 99 minutes talking about Vince McMahon, you can't say that about a lot of people in this industry, man. Like, there's some really good people, but there's a lot of bad people, man. A lot of dishonorable people, to use Chris's word from earlier, in this business. And Big E and all of those New Day guys, man, are some of the best people by all accounts. And yeah, I think if this is the end of his in-ring career, which I hope it's not, man, because the brother got a lot left in the tank. I just hope he's happy. He's obviously somebody with that personality, with that charisma that can find work elsewhere in whether it's entertainment or whether it's something like, Black Heroes Rock, reaching out to the kids and doing something positive for the kids. He's got no shortage of options in terms of what he can do. In terms of looking back at his wrestling career, Brandon, if again, like, this is the if that I don't want to happen, but if it is, I feel like they left so much on the table with this dude, man. Like, I feel like they waited too long to pull the trigger. I feel like his title run, while I was happy for him, they could have done so much more with it, man. Like, he could have been like that next level star. Like, he could have been that next Brock. He could have been that next Roman, but they never seem to want to get behind the dude. And to me, that's more on the company than it is on Big E.
Yeah, I thought so for a lot of years. He's got the size, and he was good enough in the ring, and he was good enough as a personality. Not to go back to the old white man that we spent all the show talking about, but nobody's left more money on the table than him, and Big E is a part of that. But wrestling's not everything, and there's other things to do in his life. And he did wrestle for a number of years, and I'm sure he made enough money to take care of himself, hopefully, for the rest of his life. I think I think he could have been a really big star if there wasn't a control freak with various pet peeves that he had to indulge for the entirety of his run in WWE. But I think the New Day will be remembered as a really important tag team and a really influential tag team when we look back on history.
Yeah, I was saying Big E, he gonna be at the SummerSlam trials in Nashville. Like, he gonna be like, I guess, like, coaching and stuff like that. So maybe that's an avenue he takes. But like, I think it's gonna be other stuff out there, Big E. But like like he was sort of looking at it in the interview. He was just like, it could have been way worse. Like, he even said, I know he said that, like, if it was like a few inches to the right or to the left, like, it could have been something fatal, and it could have been if it went the other way, it could have been something. He ended up in a wheelchair. So, like, from the quote, he was just talking about it from like he's grateful that he is still able to emotion and do what he need to do and get around on his own, and I like that part I definitely get, but also it's difficult kind of not to be like, damn, like, I wish they could have did a little bit more with E. I wish they could have, I wish his world title run could have been way better instead of him fucking losing on TV and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
we talked about it, Andrew, especially since the injury was on a spot that ultimately meant nothing.
Right.
Like, we ain't need that spot, dog.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bogus spot. I don't like blaming the wrestler, but it's like, to me, it's one of those things where if you're not 100% sure, you can. I know accidents happen, but to me, that just was an accident that makes no sense to me. Because Big E is a huge ass guy. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't need to be going.
Boy.
He doesn't need to be going up with too many overhead suplexes like that. Shout out to FTR, who just held on to the ROH titles.
Damn, Chris.
Chris don't give a damn about your spoilers, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I promised the public that I would keep them updated if they listen to us.
Keep them up to date. That's what you calling it.
Well, that's what they asked us.
They ain't want it like that, Chris.
So
real quick, Chad says, if this is the end of Big E's career, he definitely has a future in broadcasting, not just wrestling. He could do football too. I could easily see him on one of the game day panels. Yeah, I definitely can see that.
And shout out to Andreas Hale too, our boy, for our heroes right.
Steve says, stop spoiling it, man. He's an hour behind in the Midwest, dog.
Yes, but anyway, shout out. I mean, the thing is about anything in life, you want to make sure that you've got, your bases covered with anything. Even I was talking to Nate before we signed on to do this show. I was like, look, I'm not 100% sure about the field of education at the moment, but with the Supreme Court that we have at the moment. So I'm looking at other avenues to, try to, make an income. And, And I think a lot of wrestlers don't do themselves any service by only looking at wrestling. I understand that's a lifelong dream and stuff. We all have those lifelong dreams, but sometimes those things, kind of get deferred or messed up and whatnot. So just make sure you got your ducks in a row.
You want to know what's funny?
Lynch said, "Protect your chickens and your mentals."
You know, it's funny, like piggybacking over what Chris just said, like that just reminded me of Fandango. Like I know we talk about Nubian news right now, but like he has like the perfect extra strategy. Like this dude has like very successful construction company, so like he doesn't like need pro wrestling. It's always cool to see like wrestlers have that like outside side hustle, like where they can like legit make a living outside of pro wrestling. So like they don't need just in case like anything go wrong at any moment. But and going back to Big E, I think Big E will be fine, man. And I definitely think WWE they probably gonna keep him under contract, for a while. Like I don't see them like letting Big E like go. Like, we had recently saw Paige like she finished up with WWE. I think it'll be something along those lines. They're gonna keep Big E under contract, for a long period of time, and it'll be a long time before he's not, under the contract. I think. So,
real quick, because we are about to wrap up here, fellas. I saw a comment that Jake had, and I want to get Brandon's opinion on this. So Jake is saying that is it weird that the sponsors, the business partners and whatnot, have been silent? He remembers Snickers being upset about Moolah's name on the Mania Women's Battle Royal. So thoughts on that, Brandon?
That is what we call the Snickers doctrine, established in the year of 2018, where Snickers made the statement, as Jake says, and that caused W to change the name of the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal to the Women's Battle Royal.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's surprising that business partners didn't say anything publicly. Maybe part of the factor there with the Battle Royal was that it was sort of an urgent thing, and this was days before WrestleMania, I think.
Right.
In this case, there was no timeline. There was no event that was coming up. Snickers was the presenting sponsor of WrestleMania. I would guess that there have been a lot of conversations, though, between people at WWE and people at their various business partners of theirs. But I would think that only if there was something happening where W was being really defiant would we hear from their business partners, just because there's not this sort of a event on the horizon that you're waiting to have happen.
Gotcha. Real quick, Andrew, we already kind of touched on Sasha a little bit, so I know you had one other story in your headline, so let's hit that rapid fire real quick. What's the second story that you had for us, brother?
Yeah, man, just to show some love real quick, Swerve and Keith Lee, the new AEW World Tag Team Champions, man. Shout out to those brothers, man. They got the big one. I think a lot of people already see. Well, a lot of people have been saying for a long time, especially coming out of Keith's run with WWE, that dude, world champion caliber wrestler, and he was presented as that, and not presented as that, but he made himself out to be that even before WWE. He structured that that presentation for himself, and he went there and he had I think he had a great run in NXT. Main roster, it's up to one person's discretion. If Vince doesn't view you in a certain light, you would not be presented as that. And I'm glad that he was able to go to AEW and got his first championship win there. Him and Swerve, man, two very talented individuals. So yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah, Chris, quick thoughts on Keith and Swerve.
We'll see. Tony Khan has disappointed me in the past, but I'm optimistic, and I'm glad they have the team. I do think that I want them to feel more like a tag team. Instead of a couple makeshift guys that are being thrown together.
I mean, the question, can they coexist, Chris? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah. But I'm happy for them, and I don't have a reason to complain yet. So if TK gives me a reason, I'll be on one of those scrum calls and I'll, ask them a question with the utmost respect.
Brandon, thoughts on the new tag champs?
They've got one of the, what did we got, up to like 12 titles, 13 titles in
Oh yeah, yeah.
no, but the three-way tag where they won it was an excellent match, and we'll see what happens from here. I mean, I'm not a big fan of a lot of title changes in a short period of time. I didn't expect the Young Bucks to lose it that quickly. Maybe the Matt Hardy thing or Jeff Hardy threw off their plans, but people seem really optimistic on Swerve, and he is younger. Keith Lee's a little bit older, so maybe this is the beginning of AEW continuing to get behind Swerve. He came in really strongly. I feel like maybe AEW, also known as Tony Khan, maybe he sees something in him.
Yeah, I think for me, Andrew, and I know you're going to understand where I'm coming from, brother. I am just happy that Keith and Swerve have finally gotten out of conference play. Like they was playing a lot of conference games, and what I mean by that, Brandon, we saw so many matchups between them and Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs, so many matchups between them and Private Party and whatnot. So to see them get out of conference games and win the titles, I think is cool.
That's
Here's
funny.
the thing. Here's the thing, though. Like, I feel like I'm still like wait and see with this. Like, I'm happy for those guys, those two hardworking dudes. But Tony has a lot to prove to me, just as somebody that watches this stuff and gives my opinions and covers this stuff, but also primarily as a black wrestling fan. Like, we've talked about this pretty much ever since we've been here on Post, guys. That's been the one glaring hole for TK is how do we present our black wrestlers. So I'm hoping this is the start of something good. But if not, we're going to be back here next month talking about what TK did. But with that, that's going to bring our show to a close this month, man. We appreciate everybody for watching, man. This is our first live show, so we had a lot of fun with this. Want to shout out Wei Ting, who you will see here in a little bit with the Ring of Honor post show alongside Kate from Montreal. But Wei and John for giving us the platform to do this, man. Let's go around the horn real quick, do some plugs, and then get up out of here. Brandon, we always appreciate you coming on, man. Light-skinned cousin Brandon Thurston. Brandon, tell the folks what you got going on at WrestleNomics and where they can find all of this great content, brother.
Yeah, so tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, WrestleNomics Radio is live on YouTube, on the WrestleNomics YouTube channel. It's also in your podcast app as audio, wherever you listen to podcasts. There's a great article by Chris Ely on WrestleNomics.com that you can read. It's right at the top.
Okay.
And there's a Patreon, patreon.com/WrestleNomics, if you want to get all of my TV ratings analysis, access to a ton of data, and other reporting. And Jesse Collins is about to participate in the Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor Media Scrum. We're going to talk about that on WrestleNomics Radio, among other things.
Thank you, Brandon. We appreciate you.
They got a really great interview with John Carlin up there on the WrestleNomics YouTube channel. I covered that on the site. That was like it was like some real like informative stuff in that interview. Like I saw like it was getting covered, but like it was like he was dropping like some little gems in there that you had to like you had to it had to catch your ear or for you to hear.
Right.
So like that was like a very like interesting interview, especially with somebody that was there for so long.
Yeah, I had a phone call with him about a year ago, and I was like, "This is a great podcast."
That's
well, speaking of dropping gems, y'all, this man right here on your full screen, if you're watching live, this man, the youngest in charge, was like Jimmy Butler in the bubble finals for the last 24 hours, y'all, just working.
See the bags under my eyes.
Ain't got no sleep. But we appreciate you, Andrew Thompson. Let the people know where they can find your good work. Let them know where they can find the interviews as well as the written work, man.
Yeah, man. You can check out the written work over at postwrestling.com. We all contribute a great deal, man. Neil doing some great work over there as well. Our man Neil, along with John Pollard. We all doing our part to carry the news over there, man. So, yeah, go check out everything on the Post Wrestling website. You can check out my interviews at Andrew Thompson Interviews. I'm actually heading out of town in a couple weeks to do some in-person interviews. Not StarCast, but I will be out of town. I'm excited. It's a great lineup of people that's going to be at this convention. So I'm very excited to see what type of content I get out there. So definitely stay tuned to the YouTube channel to see what I got coming up. I'm gonna be out there. I'm gonna gonna try to get everybody in the damn room.
Andrew Thompson. Look, wherever Andrew Thompson's at, that's a StarCast, ladies and gentlemen. That's where you need to be, because this man is giving y'all the actual facts. We appreciate all your hard work here at Post, brother. And finally, well, actually, I'm finally, but pre-finally, the penultimate person here on the show, Chris from LA, the good doctor himself, the professor, Moderna Chris, to some of y'all. Let the people know about what you got going on, and of course, reiterate the great work you're doing with Brandon over at WrestleNomics.
Oh yeah, so thank you for reading me and the feedback I'm getting at WrestleNomics for the articles that I've written. I like to thank Brandon, because he really helps me tighten those articles up with his masterful editing, and just kind of making me feel confident about doing this again. I know that me and Nate, when we started this thing, we're getting closer to where we want to be. I mean, because I want to do this stuff more. So when you interact with us online and send super chats and feedback, positive and negative, as long as you're not negative within reason, right? You know, not talk about our moms and shit like that. We appreciate it, you know, and we're
hold on. How you ain't gonna include my name in that? He said,
well, your name is getting.
Y'all heard that? Oh,
you just interrupted. You just pulled the biggest Fox News move on the planet, where I don't finish the sentence and you jump down on me.
You saw that, Nate? You saw that? You shot salute your boy. You saw that, man? It's wild out here.
It's almost all over again, man.
It's almost all over.
But yeah, and then with Andrew too being an addition to what we've been doing, it's actually helped rounded out our show, and then the outside help we get from people like Brandon and people like John N.W.A. and Rich Fan, and just everybody that's kind of helped us grow this thing.
Reg with the theme.
Yeah, and then just, you know, all the comments. I can't even go through all the comments, you know, like I never thought that I would be on Twitter with as many followers as I have now. I think it's like 1,000, like more than that now.
You blowing up there, Chris?
Well, it's like I can't, like, you know, I can't even keep up with all the insults now. And that's kind of a good thing, right? It's like, you know, people are at least interested in what we're doing and what we're talking about.
That's what WrestleNomics does. It gets you a lot of people that will insult you. I've learned that.
Yes. AEW fans come for me. WWE fans come for me. It is what it is. But
and where can they come for you on Twitter?
Oh, KM Easy does it. Easy is the letter E and the letter Z. A lot of people get confused by that. It's not the word easy, but the letter K, the letter M, the letter E, then the letter Z, and then the word does and the word it. So if you're listening on one of our streaming partners, Podbean or whatever like that, Spotify, that's how you find
affiliates.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. See, Chris got his mind on his money and his money on his mind. I appreciate. Also, I love the idea of like Brandon and Chris, Andrew, kind of like Snoop and Dre. Like Chris just come in the booth with all these lyrics, and Brandon is behind the turntables getting everything straight.
Yeah. That's pretty much how it is.
It's a Google Doc. Yeah.
Chris did a great article on the WrestleNomics.
Really
side. I highly recommend to go check that out.
Yeah. Again, like I think the three of us, like, and then our guests, and friends of the program, is just starting to come together. And so we appreciate everybody watching. We appreciate all the love. If you want more from me, at @8 MOZAIK at Nate Mosaic on Twitter. There you'll find links to all the shows. While you're on Patreon, subscribing to Brandon, and I'm sure you've already subscribed to Post by now, check out the Kings of Sport Patreon. Been doing that since 2013. So me, Marcus, Chris, all of our friends, Andrew, Steve Willie, who was in the chat earlier, a lot of people, man. Jermaine, the infamous hater from Chi-Town. Check that out. Patreon.com/the Kings of Sport. $5 gets you in the door. If you want to pay more, I won't stop you, not with as high as gas is these days. But fellas, Before we close, I got one last thing. So, we had a lot of heavy topics tonight talking about the Vince McMahon story. And so, I appreciate all of the conversation, man, the discussion. It was beautiful, fellas. But I feel like, Andrew, we need to kind of end on a positive note. And there is only one person that I can think of in these great United States, in this world that we live in, that could bring us all together. So,
don't do it.
Let's take a moment.
Don't do it. Don't
and pause
do it.
for the cause, y'all. Can you feel the unity now, Andrew?
Bro.
Oh, and that's crazy though. Like, I feel like this is the first time a lot of people are getting to see this live. That Cody Devontae Rhodes drop.
Who made that?
I mean, I made that. You know what I'm saying? I was in the lab, much like Brandon at WrestleNomics, putting that together, son. With Cody Luther King on these streets.
Cody Rhodes, man. Cody Rhodes.
Cody can't come back soon enough, man.
He leaning into it, man. At these little
He
signings
really
and stuff
is.
he's doing. He leaning into it, bro. I've read an interview that somebody did, and they said that he's seeing all the memes and stuff like that. So that's hilarious.
Cody
bro.
know what the deal is. We see you, Devontae. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us tonight. We thank y'all for checking us out. If you're watching live, stay tuned to post for the ROH post show, even though Chris spoiled the whole damn show. Wei Ting and Kate from Montreal about to bring y'all that goodness, talking about ROH. If you're listening in the future on the audio version, we appreciate it, man. We'll be back here in August with some more stories. And if y'all enjoyed the live show tonight, man, let us know. And then maybe this is something that we'll keep doing in the future. But for Chris, for Andrew, and for our guest, Brandon Thurston, I am the Godfather, Nate Milton. And remember, the revolution may not be televised, but it damn sure will be podcasted. We'll see y'all next month.
Yo, it's Righteous Reg. It's a case for the safe, keep a space for the Nubians. Unfiltered, off kilter, the professor, the Godfather, post wrestling the N.W.A. Not keep guessing, The views and expressions, you know the rest. It's pod excellence, get the message. Advocates for Nubian wrestling, you're listening to the best again. Black wrestling in the ring we invested in. Nubian kings and queens we invested in. It's for the culture and we reppin' it. It's for the culture and we reppin' it.